The Jungle Book, Tiger Tiger, continued. And I'm here to continue the story from the Jungle Book called Tiger Tiger. In the last episode, we heard how Mowgli joined the village and the old men were gossiping about the reward for killing the man-eating tiger, Shere Khan. Now, Mowgli is going out to look after the village's buffalo for the first time. The custom of most Indian villages is for a few boys to take the cattle and buffaloes out to graze in the early morning and bring them back at night. The very cattle that would trample a man to death allow themselves to be banged and bullied and shouted at by children that hardly come up to their noses. So long as the boys keep with the herds, they are safe, for not even the tiger will charge a mob of cattle. But if they straggle to pick flowers or hunt lizards, they are sometimes carried off. Mowgli went through the village street in the dawn, sitting on the back of Rama, the great herd bull. The slaty blue buffaloes, with their long, backward sweeping horns and savage eyes, rose out their byres one by one and followed him. And Mowgli made it very clear to the children with him that he was the master. He beat the buffaloes with a long, polished bamboo and told Kamya, one of the boys, to graze the cattle by themselves, while he went on with the buffaloes, and to be very careful not to stray away from the herd. An Indian grazing ground is all rocks and scrubs and tussocks and little ravines, among which the herds scatter and disappear. The buffaloes generally keep to the pools and muddy places where they lie wallowing or basking in the warm mud for hours. Mowgli drove them on to the edge of the plain where the Waingunga came out of the jungle. And then he dropped from Rama's neck, trotted off to a bamboo clump, and found Grey Brother. "Ha!" said Grey Brother. "I have waited here very many days. What is the meaning of this cattle herding work?" "It is an order," said Mowgli. "I am a village herd for a while." "What news of Shere Khan?" "He has come back to this country and has waited here a long time for thee. Now he has gone off again, for the game is scarce. But he means to kill thee." "Very good," said Mowgli. "So long as he is away, do thou or one of the 4 brothers sit on that rock, so that I can see thee as I come out of the village. When he comes back, wait for me in the ravine by the dak tree in the centre of the plain. We need not walk into Shere Khan's mouth." Then Mowgli picked out a shady place and lay down and slept while the buffaloes grazed round him. Herding in India is one of the laziest things in the world. The cattle move and crunch and lie down and move on again, and they do not even low. They only grunt, and the buffaloes very seldom say anything, but get down into the muddy pools one after another and work their way into the mud till only their noses and staring china blue eyes show above the surface, and then they lie like logs. The sun makes the rocks dance in the heat, and the herd children hear one kite, never any more, whistling almost out of sight overhead. And they know that if they died, or a cow died, that kite would sweep down, and the next kite miles away would see him drop and follow, and the next, and the next. And almost before they were dead, there would be a score of hungry kites come out of nowhere. Then they sleep and wake and sleep again, and weave little baskets of dried grass and put grasshoppers in them, or catch 2 praying mantises and make them fight, or string a necklace of red and black jungle nuts, or watch a lizard basking on a rock, or a snake hunting a frog near the wallows. Then they sing long, long songs with odd native quavers at the end of them, and the day seems longer than most people's whole lives. And perhaps they make a mud castle with mud figures of men and horses and buffaloes, and put reeds into the men's hands, and pretend that they are kings, and the figures are their armies, or that they are gods to be worshipped. Then evening comes, and the children call, and the buffaloes lumber up out of the sticky mud with noises like gunshots going off one after the other, and they all string across the grey plain back to the twinkling village lights. Day after day, Mowgli would lead the buffaloes out to their wallows, and day after day he would see Grey Brother's back 1.5 miles away across the plain, so he knew that Shere Khan had not come back. And day after day he would lie on the grass, listening to the noises round him, and dreaming of old days in the jungle. If Shere Khan had made a false step with his lame paw up in the jungles by the Waingunga, Mowgli would have heard him in those long, still mornings. At last a day came when he did not see Grey Brother at the signal place, and he laughed and headed the buffaloes for the ravine by the dak tree, which was all covered with golden red flowers. There sat Grey Brother, every bristle on his back lifted. "He has hidden for a month to throw thee off thy guard. He crossed the ranges last night with Tabaqui, hot foot on thy trail," said the wolf, panting. Mowgli frowned. "I am not afraid of Shere Khan, but Tabaqui is very cunning." "Have no fear," said Grey Brother, licking his lips a little. "I met Tabaqui in the dawn. Now he is telling all his wisdom to the kites, but he told me everything before I broke his back. Shere Khan's plan is to wait for thee at the village gate this evening, for thee and for no one else. He is lying up now in the big dry ravine of the Waingunga." "Has he eaten today, or does he hunt empty?" said Mowgli, for the answer meant life and death to him. "He killed at dawn a pig, and he has drunk too. Remember, Shere Khan could never fast, even for the sake of revenge." "Oh, fool, fool! What a cub's cub it is! Eaten and drunk too? And he thinks that I shall wait till he has slept? Now, where does he lie up? If there were but 10 of us, we might pull him down as he lies. These buffaloes will not charge unless they wind him, and I cannot speak their language. Can we get behind his track so that they may smell it?" "He swam far down the Waingunga to cut that off," said Grey Brother. "Tabaqui told him that, I know. He would never have thought of that alone." Mowgli stood with his finger in his mouth, thinking. "The big ravine of the Waingunga, that opens out on the plain not 1/2 mile from here. I can take the herd round through the jungle to the head of the ravine and then sweep down. But he would slink out at the foot. We must block that end. Grey Brother, canst thou cut the herd in two for me?" "Not I, perhaps, but I have brought a wise helper." Grey Brother trotted off and dropped into a hole. Then there lifted up a huge grey head that Mowgli knew well, and the hot air was filled with the most desolate cry of all the jungle, the hunting howl of a wolf at midday. "Akela! Akela!" said Mowgli, clapping his hands. "I might have known that thou wouldst not forget me. We have a big work in hand. Cut the herd in two, Akela. Keep the cows and calves together, and the bulls and the plough buffaloes by themselves." The two wolves ran, ladies' chain fashion, in and out of the herd, which snorted and threw up its head and separated into two clumps. In one, the cow buffaloes stood with their calves in the centre, and glared and pawed, ready, if a wolf would only stay still, to charge down and trample the life out of him. In the other, the bulls and the young bulls snorted and stamped, but though they looked more imposing, they were much less dangerous, for they had no calves to protect. No 6 men could have divided the herd so neatly.
"What orders?" panted Arkela. "They are trying to join again."
Mowgli slipped onto Rama's back. "Drive the bulls away to the left, Arkela! Grey Brother, when we are gone, hold the cows together and drive them into the foot of the ravine." "How far?" said Grey Brother, panting and snapping. "Till the sides are higher than Shere Khan can jump," shouted Mowgli. "Keep them there till we come down." The bulls swept off as Arkela bayed, and Grey Brother stopped in front of the cows. They charged down on him, and he ran just before them to the foot of the ravine as Arkela drove the bulls far to the left. "Well done! Another charge, and they're fairly started. Careful now, careful, Arkela. A snap too much and the bulls will charge. Ajah! This is wilder work than driving black buck. Didst thou think these creatures could move so swiftly?" Mowgli called.
"I have hunted these too in my time," gasped Arkela in the dust. "Shall I turn them into the jungle?"
"Aye, turn! Swiftly turn them! Rama is mad with rage. Oh, if I could only tell him what I need of him today." The bulls were turned to the right this time and crashed into the standing thicket. The other herd children, watching with the cattle half a mile away, hurried to the village as fast as their legs could carry them, crying that the buffaloes had gone mad and run away. But Mowgli's plan was simple enough. All he wanted to do was to make a big circle uphill and get at the head of the ravine, and then take the bulls down it and catch Shere Khan between the bulls and the cows. For he knew that after a meal and a full drink, Shere Khan would not be in any condition to fight or to clamber up the sides of the ravine. He was soothing the buffaloes now by voice, and Arkela had dropped far to the rear, only whimpering once or twice to hurry the rear guard. It was a long, long circle, for they did not wish to get too near the ravine and give Shere Khan warning. At last, Mowgli rounded up the bewildered herd at the head of the ravine on a grassy patch that sloped steeply down to the ravine itself. From that height you could see across the tops of the trees down to the plain below. But what Mowgli looked at was the sides of the ravine, and he saw with a great deal of satisfaction that they ran nearly straight up and down, while the vines and creepers that hung over them would give no foothold to a tiger who wanted to get out. "Let them breathe, Arkela," he said, holding up his hand. "They have not winded him yet. Let them breathe. I must tell Shere Khan who comes. We have him in the trap." He put his hands to his mouth and shouted down the ravine. It was almost like shouting down a tunnel, and the echoes jumped from rock to rock. After a long time, there came back the drawling, sleepy snarl of a full-fed tiger just wakened. "Who calls?" "I, Mowgli! Cattle thief! It is time to come to the Council Rock! Down! Hurry them down, Arkela! Down, Rama! Down!" The herd paused for an instant at the edge of the slope, but Arkela gave tongue in the full hunting yell, and they pitched over one after the other, just as steamers shoot rapids, the sand and stones spurting up around them. Once started, there was no chance of stopping, and before they were fairly in the bed of the ravine, Rama winded Shere Khan and bellowed. "Ha ha!" said Mowgli on his back. "Now thou knowest!" And the torrent of black horns, foaming muzzles, and staring eyes whirled down the ravine, just as boulders go down in flood time. The weaker buffaloes being shouldered out to the sides of the ravine where they tore through the creepers. They knew what the business was before them. the terrible charge of the buffalo herd against which no tiger can hope to stand. Shere Khan heard the thunder of their hoofs, picked himself up, and lumbered down the ravine, looking from side to side for some way of escape. But the walls of the ravine were straight, and he had to hold on, heavy with his dinner and his drink, willing to do anything rather than fight. The herd splashed through the pool he had just left, bellowing till the narrow cut rang. Mowgli heard an answering bellow from the foot of the ravine, saw Shere Khan turn. The tiger knew if the worst came to the worst, it was better to meet the bulls than the cows with their calves. And then Rama tripped, stumbled, and went on again over something soft, and with the bulls at his heels, crashed full into the other herd, while the weaker buffaloes were lifted clean off their feet by the shock of the meeting. That charge carried both herds out into the plain, goring and stamping and snorting. Mowgli watched his time and slipped off Rama's neck, laying about him right and left with his stick. "Quick, Akela! Break them up! Scatter them! Or they will be fighting one another! Drive them away, Akela! Hi, Rama! Hi, 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 my children! Softly now, softly! It is all over." Akela and Grey Brother ran to and fro, nipping the buffalo's legs, and though the herd wheeled once to charge up the ravine again, Mowgli managed to turn Rama, and the others followed him to the wallows. Shere Khan needed no more trampling. He was dead, and the kites were coming for him already. "Brothers, that was a dog's death," said Mowgli, feeling for the knife he always carried in a sheath round his neck now that he lived with men. "But he would never have shown fight. His hide will look well on the Council Rock. We must get to work swiftly." A boy trained among men would never have dreamed of skinning a 10-foot tiger alone. But Mowgli knew better than anyone else how an animal's skin is fitted on, and how it can be taken off. But it was hard work, and Mowgli slashed and tore and grunted for an hour, while the wolves lolled out their tongues or came forward and tugged as he ordered them. Presently, a hand fell on his shoulder, and looking up, he saw Buldeo with the tower musket. The children had told the village about the buffalo stampede, and Buldeo went out angrily, only too anxious to correct Mowgli for not taking better care of the herd. The wolves dropped out of sight as soon as they saw the man coming. "What is this folly?" said Buldeo angrily. "To think that thou canst skin a tiger! Where did the buffaloes kill him? It is the lame tiger too, and there is 100 rupees on his head. Well, well, we will overlook thy letting the herd run off, and perhaps I will give thee one of the rupees of the reward when I've taken the skin to Kankiwara." He fumbled in his waistcloth for flint and steel, and stooped down to singe Shere Khan's whiskers. Most hunters always singe a tiger's whiskers to prevent his ghost from haunting them. "Hum," said Mowgli, half to himself as he ripped back the skin of a forepaw. "So thou wilt take the hide to Kankiwara for the reward, and perhaps give me 1 rupee? Now, it is in my mind that I need the skin for my own use. Ha! Old man, take away that fire!" "What talk is this to the chief hunter of the village? Thy luck and the stupidity of thy buffaloes have helped thee to this kill. The tiger has just fed, or he would have gone 20 miles by this time. Thou canst not even skin him properly, little beggar brat. And forsooth I, Buldeo, must be told not to singe his whiskers? Mowgli, I will not give thee 1 anna of the reward, but only a very big beating. Leave the carcass." By the bull that bought me, said Mowgli, who was trying to get at the shoulder. Here, Akela, this man plagues me. Buldeo, who was still stooping over Shere Khan's head, found himself sprawling on the grass, with a grey wolf standing over him, while Mowgli went on skinning as though he were alone in all India. Yes, he said between his teeth. Thou art altogether right, Buldeo. Thou wilt never give me 1 anna of the reward. This is an old war between this lame tiger and myself. A very old war. And I have won. To do Buldeo justice, if he had been 10 years younger, he would have taken his chance with Akela had he met the wolf in the woods. But a wolf who obeyed the orders of this boy, who had private wars with man-eating tigers, was not a common animal. It was sorcery, magic of the worst kind, thought Buldeo, and he wondered whether the amulet round his neck would protect him. He lay as still, expecting every minute to see Mowgli turn into a tiger too.
Maharaj, great king,
he said at last in a husky whisper. Yes, said Mowgli, without turning his head, chuckling a little.
I am an old man. I did not know that thou wast anything more than a herd's boy. May I rise up and go away? Or will thy servant tear me to pieces?
Go, and peace go with thee. Only another time do not meddle with my game. Let him go, Akela. Buldeo hobbled away to the village as fast as he could, looking back over his shoulder in case Mowgli should change into something terrible. When he got to the village, he told a tale of magic and enchantment and sorcery that made the priest look very grave. Mowgli went on with his work, but it was nearly twilight before he and the wolves had drawn the great skin clear of the body. Now we must hide this and take the buffaloes home. Help me to herd them, Akela. The herd rounded up in the misty twilight, and when they got near the village, Mowgli saw lights and heard the conches and bells in the temple blowing and banging. Half the village seemed to be waiting for him by the gate. That is because I've killed Shere Khan, he said to himself. But a shower of stones whistled about his ears, and the villagers shouted, Sorcerer! Wolf sprat! Jungle demon! Go away! Get hence quickly, or the priest will turn thee into a wolf again! Shoot, Buldeo! Shoot! The old tower musket went off with a bang, and a young buffalo bellowed in pain. More sorcery! Shouted the villagers. He can turn bullets! Buldeo, that was thy buffalo! Now what is this? Said Mowgli, bewildered as the stones flew thicker. They are not unlike the pack, these brothers of thine, said Akela, sitting down composedly. It is in my head that if bullets mean anything, they would cast thee out. Wolf, wolf's cub, go away! Shouted the priest, waving a sprig of the sacred Tulsi plant. Again? Last time it was because I was a man. This time it is because I am a wolf. Let us go, Akela. And that was the second part of Tiger Tiger from the Jungle Book. So I hope you enjoyed this exciting tale. For now, goodbye.